I'd like to now call to order the East Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees meeting Saturday, May 15th, 2021. It's approximately 2:05. Mr. Turner, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid.
Present.
Mr. Mays. Here. Ms. Shaheen.
Here.
Ms. Sharpley. Mr. Silvera.
Here.
Dr. Harris.
Present.
Ms. McDonald.
May I ask, inquire, have we heard from the absent board members?
I haven't heard from
Five present.
anybody. Present, that constitutes 4. Next item on the agenda is lift every voice and sing.
Every
Voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. They sing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Turner, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid.
Yes.
Mr. Mays.
Yay.
Ms. Shaheen. Mr. Silvera.
Yes.
Dr. Harris.
Yes.
5 yeses.
5 yeses. The motion passes to approve the agenda. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the regular board minute meetings from April the 17th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the adoption of the minutes of Saturday, 2021.
It's been moved. Do I have a second? It's been moved and second. Do we have any discussion? Wow, that's smooth. It's been moved in second. No discussion on the floor. Mr. Turner, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid.
Yes.
Mr. Mays.
Yay.
Ms. Shaheen.
Yes.
Mr. Silvera.
Yes.
Dr. Harris.
Yes.
5 yeses.
5 yeses. It's been approved. Regular board meeting minutes from April 17, 2021. The next item on the agenda, communications. Our director, Mr. Latimer, are there any communications?
President, there are no communications.
There are no communications. Next item on the agenda would be the president's report, which I'd like to share. I do have a few items. The first thing I wanted to share with you is that we met, we being the staff of the East Cleveland Public Library, as well as Mr. Major from Major Source regarding the marquee. And I want to say that I was really impressed with the due diligence that had been put forth by the group. The staff had accepted a lot of different recommendations from different companies, which is something that I had sought earlier, just to ensure us that it's been a fair process of looking at different options for us. And out of all of those, they did get responses back, and as a matter of fact, some of them may be contained in your package. And you can take a look at those, but out of all of that feedback from various sign companies, the group came to a presentation, which is what we're going to end up with as our sign. And I am suggesting that it now came out of committee, and that we will take a vote soon to accept the design recommendations and the construction process put forth by the team. I can't express to enough the amount of in-depth work that they put in to coming up with this, with the marquee, and I think we will all be proud of the final result. The next process that will occur is that the formal bids will go out, and then in fact, there's going to be a resolution on our agenda today regarding that, and we'll discuss that when we get to it. But my major part of what I wanted to express is gratitude for the work that was done by the team to come to this, because this is a major step for us to replace that old existing marquee. And I know we all wanted something that would truly reflect the institution and the people that we serve for the city of East Cleveland. I think we'll be proud of the final process. And once the construction has been done, we'll have an unveiling and we'll move forward. But we have a few more steps to go before we get there. The other item that I had, I wanted to talk about today was the property expansion for the back. At this point, I haven't heard from the committee, which we will hear from a little bit later today regarding any progress that has been made with feedback from the city or any other parties that would be involved with letting us know what the status is. But my recommendation to the board, and I'm going to ask for the support, that we move forward in a formal process of applying to the Cuyahoga County Land Bank for this property in the back for expansion, future expansion of the library. The property is currently being dumped upon, and unfortunately, we've maintained that property for over 8 years. The public library has did that at their own expense. And now we see dumping beginning to occur back there by a local resident. And I also want to, move forward to express to the city, we'd like to have that cleaned up as soon as possible, have the stuff removed off that property and have it cleaned up as soon as we can. But my thoughts are that we now move forward toward a formal application for this land. So that's about it that I have for today. I'll take any questions that anyone may have regarding my thoughts, but that's my report for today.
Resolution will be included in the grounds report.
Okay.
And also an update from Mr. Major. Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the director's report, Mr. Ladley.
Okay. Hello, board of trustees. Greetings to the community. Any board member that's interested in professional development, we have an opportunity with Care Move, still revising. Mr. Turner sent an email. You're interested, please reply back. This is a virtual event that's taking place on June 3rd, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. The cost of this virtual event is $50. The library will pick it up as part of the board's travel and professional development. So if you're interested, please reply to Mr. Turner. One of the big events that's happening this month, May 29th, and I have promotional cards for everyone. We'll pass those out. The summer reading kickoff and our Founders Day, which will be Saturday, May 29th, from 1 o'clock to 5:00 p.m. in the parking lot. We are employing masks and social distancing. There will be games, raffles, the drumming group, the Blacks Museum, the team gaming truck, free food and beverages, and we will have tables for community partners as well. So this is East Cleveland Public Library's 105th anniversary. And East Cleveland Chapter League of Women Voters will have a table there as well. So we welcome the board member and your families to attend this event. Again, May 29th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Sounds like fun. Well, it encourages many other members of the community to come out.
Yes, it'd be a nice event. Also, an event that's happening this month is the Great Debate, the 11th Congressional District of Ohio. Here, we'll be hosting the candidates for Marsha Fudge's former seat. We did send invites out to the board members and community members. For the public, this will be a virtual streaming event. I have promotional cards as well, and we're still working through the details and logistics on that. The planning is going very well. So I have invite cards. I think I emailed them out to the board as well, and I have the promotional cards as well. So.
And that's next Saturday here at the East Cleveland Public Library?
Correct.
Okay.
May 26th. So it'll be a limited audience. The audience will be board members and community stakeholders.
Okay.
We have, I believe, the 14 candidates. We will have a moderator, timekeeper. This thing is going to be highly produced, a high-level broadcast. We will have lunch for the guests as well as for the candidates.
Okay.
So we're still working through all the logistics.
But there's only a total seating available for, I think it's 50 guests.
Yes, including the candidates and the technology team, we're allowing up to 65 individuals up into the Performing Arts Center.
Okay, but once we reach capacity, doors closed, no exceptions.
Yes, this will be a live broadcast. It starts at 2 o'clock. We'll be locking doors at 1:30.
Thank you very much.
And what time was this again?
2 o'clock p.m. until 4 o'clock p.m. We are asking all guests to arrive to the library at 12:30 for lunch and for other preparation and directions for this virtual event.
And how is this being advertised as well as the events that you said that will take place this coming month?
This particular, this particular event is being promoted through our typical traditional cards. We did a press release to the media as well as to the radio stations, out to the candidates. We received a lot of social media as well. So we received a lot of calls, and it's going to be a high level of interest in this particular debate.
What about the events that's taking place, I believe you said outside, it's something?
Right, the May 29th event, we're promoting through social media and through promotional cards. Those are being handed out in the community. That all concludes the director's report. Oh, I have one other item. The summer reading club theme for 2021 is Tales and Tales. Part of the summer reading club will include live and virtual events throughout the summer, arts and crafts, brown bag books, food demonstrations, games and giveaways. There will be a Hawaiian luau, journalism, picture days and prizes, journaling and prizes for students that participate in summer reading club. So we'll be kicking that off at Founders Day as well.
Okay, and then, a question. I assume that is being advertised, and how many children that will be permitted to enter this fair?
A lot of times we don't know until the day happens, but all staff will be on deck that day, monitoring and reinforcing social distancing and masks. And this is an outdoor event.
Oh, it is.
It's outdoors.
But still, is that information going out to the children in reference to what the requirements are? Because we don't want children to come in and not be able to participate or whatever.
Yeah, on the flyer it says mask and social distancing required.
I know, I'm quite sure that we will have masks and those sort of things on hand for kids who may show up and not have one.
There is a committee, if not, I'm sure they will allow.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Does that conclude
That
your
concludes the
report?
director's report.
Thank you very much, sir. Next item on our agenda is the fiscal officer's report by Mr. Copperfield. Mr. Copperfield, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid. I'm reading from the report. Reconciled cash fund balances as of April 30th were $1,472,733.15. Through the first 4 months of the year, general fund operations are running under budget at 28.834% of budget as against 33% of benchmark. Mr. Latimer and I are constantly monitoring our spending to guard against any unexpected drops in revenue. Through April, we have received almost 50% of our budgeted revenue, which means that during the latter part of the year, when all we receive is the PLF distribution, tax settlements having been already received, our spending will show our expenses running higher than our monthly PLF distribution. Our cash balance will noticeably drop. This is a normal occurrence that is best handled by budgetary control, and this is something we're trying to get ahead of at this point so that during the latter part of the year, we're not going to run into any problems. I prepared a draft of the marquee bid documents for the board's review. The documents have been reviewed by the prosecutor and by Mr. Major Harrison, the project consultant. Their comments and suggestions are reflected in the draft. And that concludes my report.
Questions from the student? Principal officer. Mr. Cox, can you articulate as to what in the first, through the first 4 months of the year, general funds operation of running under budget at 28.834%. Is that predicated on because we are not fully operating, or what is that predicated on?
Well, it just means that we had expected to spend X number of dollars.
Very well in managing the fund.
I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, that you're doing very well in managing the funds. Is that right?
Well, not only myself, but certainly with Mr. Latimer, he and I are constantly monitoring our spending. And as a result of that, we're staying under budget. We had anticipated spending X number of dollars, and we're not spending that at this point.
Okay. That's because we're not totally, fully operating. Is that correct?
No, I don't think that's necessarily the case. We took that into consideration when we created the budget. We obviously expect operations to improve or increase once the restrictions are dropped. And all of this was taken into consideration when we created the budget in the first place. So I think though that certainly there's some areas that we had expected to spend a little bit more than we did. And this is reflected in the fact that we're running under budget at this point.
Okay. I thank you for that. One other thing in reference to in the second paragraph, where you said 50% of our budget revenue, which means that during the latter part of the year, when all that we receive is filled out with distribution and there's a cash, there's a drop there. Can you articulate as to what's going on here, our cash balance to notable drop?
Well, what is it? What is it?
Because we're not getting funds that we had been expected, or articulate what is what's happening.
Yeah, no. What I'm simply saying is that through the first 4 months of the year, we received half of our money. What generally happens is that through up to July, generally, we receive our tax settlements as well as our PLF distribution. So our revenues are considerably higher. They're not spread evenly over 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we receive a good chunk of our money within the first 7 months of the year. And then after that happens, then all we have to work with is our PLF distribution, which will carry us from August all the way to the end of the year. During those last 5 months, so to speak, our expenses run higher than our revenue. And as a result of that, we're going to see a tailing off of our cash balances. So during the last 5 months of the year, our expenses are going to exceed our revenue. But that's, as I was saying, that's a normal occurrence. And the fact that we're paying attention to the budget at this point gives us some cushion as we get toward the end of the year in terms of having adequate cash balances.
It's more like just like a rhythmic flow. It starts out with us with a lot
Well,
of.
it starts high and then tails off considerably toward the end of the year.
And I think it's been a great job of budgeting as well too, because, you know, the anticipation of changes due to COVID and what we anticipated throughout the year, we had to be cautious going into the year as to what we thought we would, you know, possibly have to spend. So, but, you know, going into the second half of the year, it's pretty much like it's been, as I've noticed throughout the years, that's kind of how it always flows. We get the money and then the balances begin to decrease simply because we're catching up with our normal spending pattern.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further questions, I move to accept not only the finance, Mr. Cocktail report as well as
The director's report.
our director's report as well.
The motion has been made to accept the director's report and the fiscal officer's report. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Attorney, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
5 yeses.
5 yeses. Both reports have been accepted. Committee updates. First up is the Finance Committee's chairperson of the Finance Committee. Mr. Severi.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
members, the Finance Committee did meet on May 6, 2021, via virtual meeting. We discussed a number of items, obviously the excellent finance report and insight on that. Things are going well there. I would also say that we also continue to review the internal control policy, which is the backbone of the organization, and I hope that all the members who still haven't had the opportunity to read through that document, will take time to review that. And any questions or concerns, please bring my attention so we can continue to go over that and bring that document. One other thing that we had the community unity and discuss this grant that we're receiving from the Great COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund. So I believe read the resolution to the record. Resolution to accept the grant from the Great COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund for $22,000 for COVID-19 response rate. This resolution is sponsored by myself and community co-chair, Mr. Sanjay. Members of these community public libraries board of trustees, finance committee, and then discussion review the following item of the meeting on May 15, 2021. Resolution 5/1/2021, COVID-19 rapid response fund of $22,000 for COVID-19 response to rate. Whereas these community public libraries board of trustees hereby accept the recommendation Executive Director of the Finance Committee to accept the grant for the European COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund of $22,000 COVID-19 response to whereas $22,000 is modified facility by PPE compliant post COVID-19 CDC safety measures and year resolve adoption of resolution 05/01/2021 for the acceptance of the grant for the Freedom Foundation $22,000 for the East Public Library to use as noted. The Freedom grant funds will be recorded to restricted contributions foundation account code 613. The grant costs will be charged to maintenance and sale of facility account code 210-33331. I move for the adoption.
Second, Marianne Harris.
It's been moved to second. Is there any further discussion? I just wanted to say as a matter of discussion, this is a surprise, a welcome surprise. Because we were not anticipating this grant. And, we're thankful to, and I don't see exactly where it came from.
Cleveland Foundation.
From the Cleveland Foundation, we want to just say thank you, a sincere thank you, and that we'll utilize this money in the proper manner, but, it was not expected, but it's definitely much needed, and we're very thankful for it. Is there any further discussion?
Just a comment on discussion in reference to receiving the grant. I hope that we will express our gratitude in reference to the grant from the board as far as the administration to the Cleveland Foundation.
We do that once the resolution is passed. We send a thank you letter to any funders of dollars.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Turner, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
5 yeses.
5 yeses. A resolution to accept the grant from the Greater Cleveland COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund has been approved.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next item on our agenda. Today will be the update by the Personnel Committee.
Okay, the Personnel Committee held a virtual meeting May 6th at 2:00 p.m. Karen Murray, who has received a pay increase of $21.72 an hour, has become the lead person at the reference desk. She will also serve to reestablish the outreach program for the library. When the pandemic, we lost a great connection to the community. She will lead and share programs to reestablish this connection. Programs like the Parent Empowerment Center as well as the Senior Center. The Pfizer vaccine is now available to all 16 years and up in Ohio. We can look forward to mobile units providing shots to the community. Minorities are underrepresented in the state working on that program. Students have open sites to provide shots to people in the community. Students 16 to 17 years old who are vaccinated will be able to participate in sports and other activities, even though they have been exposed to someone with the virus. Governor DeWine announced that fully vaccinated Ohioans will no longer be expected to quarantine for 10 days if they've been exposed to the virus from someone else. The Performing Arts Program, the library will continue in the near future. September 1st was first mentioned, but that may change. Regardless of circumstances, when we do meet, certain guidelines are to be followed. Must wear masks, practice social distance. Each mouthpiece used must be sanitized. We can accommodate between 40 to 50 people, we thought about 25% expected. And the children's department will open around June 1st.
Okay. I have a question. The personnel, the person that you mentioned doing the outreach, is that external from the library, that you be going to different places outside of the library? Okay, to reestablish the connections that we had. Okay, thank you very much. That was my question. Is there any further discussion or questions?
I have a question. Out of the 7 full-time salary employees, how many are actually professional librarians?
That question and answer, myself, Teresa Flood, Stephanie Tyus in the Children's Department, and Merce Robinson. So it's just 4 of us.
Do we have anything in place for any employee to pursue?
Hopefully, We do.
professional field, like being in the library, whether they are already working in that area or maybe a person is working at the desk at work. So we have anything in place for those people who may have expressed or may not have expressed an interest, but have been, I guess, you can see that they have potential. Do we have a place in, a program or something in place for it?
The library, East Cleveland Public Library does have tuition reimbursement. Teresa Flood and I have informally mentoring Sarah Green, not to put her on the spot. If she's interested, we will support her 100% in pursuing that master's degree in library science. The other staff, we encourage professional development throughout the organization, and we will support all staff members that want to further their education.
So they are made aware of this.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I believe a year ago, we had a young lady from Kent State University to talk about the master's degree program, but that's something we can revisit once the pandemic settles.
And even those who don't have a master's are trying to obtain a 4-year degree or even a 2-year degree. There are some programs that offer a 4-year degree in the area of information science. One out of Kentucky, I think of. And then also at one point, Colorado Community College offered a 2-year program in the area of working in the library. So I just wanted to make that, wanted to ask because I think it's important that people already working in the field or working in the environment, they probably have an interest and maybe just need a little step up or push to help them find their interest in that area. And I think if they're already there, it's good rather than trying to find someone for positions when they eventually occur, because having the employee that's already in a situation, at least you know where they are or where they stand or where they're coming from versus looking for outside staff. Thank you.
I have also received, evaluations from administrative people here, from our staff.
Mhm.
It looks extremely well, it looks good. So, others are forthcoming.
Okay,
I'm gonna share it with you.
okay.
Any other questions?
I have none. Anybody else?
Please, the personnel committee report.
What's that?
I think it's interesting that, if you have the shot, you are exempt from a lot of stuff, especially with the schools. So evidently they're pushing shots for teenagers. Because of the sports thing, as I said before, if you have a shot, that 10-day period, if you're exposed to other people, it doesn't matter, you can just come out. I know one person last week, they had to do a quarantine for 10 days because their son was exposed to someone else. He comes home and she has to stay home for 10 days as well. So evidently that's exempt now. So we're moving forward.
That's a good thing. Is there any further discussion?
It's a good thing. I think it will serve us well if we'll take the shot to protect our own health as well as others as well. And even, I know they are kind of, as we just indicated, raising the mass and people opportunity, the ones that have taken completed their shots, but the COVID shot, saying that they can mingle with people. I'm just still wearing my mask.
I think I'm gonna wear my mask too, because they're not stamping people's forehead. So say who got a shot and who didn't.
Well, in a minute, it won't matter because so many people have taken the shot.
That's my plan. I figured enough people take it, I may be able to get around taking it. But if I'm forced to take it, if I'm actually forced to take it, I came to the conclusion that I will. But until that day goes, I'm banking on herd immunity.
But I'll tell you, I had both shots, I had no effects whatsoever. None, I didn't get sick. You like most people think you get the second one, it's nothing. I went for a 40-minute walk the second shot.
I walked from the place where I take the shot, I said, if anything in there from working,
I know you walk all the time.
Exactly.
People walking. I had no problems, and of course I put, as I was walking, I put my name, address, and telephone number in case I passed out. I said, just in case,
Mhm.
but I was fine, no problems whatsoever, so it's up to you,
Well, that's good feedback.
yeah. Okay.
and I agree with you, I can concur because I had no problems either.
Right.
A lot of people saying, you know, they got high and all this stuff and got weak and,
A few died.
well, I don't know about everyone died. I mean, not from taking the shot.
Well, they said it wasn't, but it was a coincidence that 2 days after the shot, but it's such a small percentage from what I've heard across the country that that is just a risk that you know take with any vaccine on the kids.
Yeah.
And we have to give kudos to a black lady from North Carolina, doctor, is the one that,
Well, she helped create the Moderna.
yes.
I saw her. Yeah, as a sister from, yeah, I saw that. That was really impressive listening to her story
Right.
and how she helped develop the Moderna vaccine, which was something that if, I'll leave that alone. But I was surprised to see that it was a African-American female that had did the research, and it wasn't something that she had just started to work on. She had been working on these type of processes for years, and it just so happened that timing ran into what she was already doing, and she was able, and it really pointed to her scholastic abilities, that she was able to modify her research and what she was already doing, and to tie it to helping create the vaccine that Moderna has released to this day. And it was really impressive, and I know that there's no excuse for her not to be well known throughout the United States of America and across, in fact, all over the planet, because of the way that she did it. They actually explained how she did it. I was really impressed with that. I saw that, Mr. Mayor. Was that, does that conclude the Personnel Committee update?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shaheed. The next item on our agenda is the Buildings and Ground Committee update. Chairperson, Mr. Mays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Building and Ground met on Thursday, May the 6th at 1 p.m. We discussed any number of topics, and before I get into discussion, I know we have Mr. Sergeant Harrison with us as well, and I don't know, I guess this would be the time that he would come in too, because the first item on the agenda was the digital display marquee. And I know Mr. The president had articulated some things in reference to the marquee, and there's no objections to it. I would like to yield to Mr. Harrison to kind of fill us in and where we are, and hopefully when we will get started and when we can see groundbreaking for the marquee or whatever. I know that the bids are in the process of going on, so I hope that we have to wait on that when we come up. But Mr. Harrison, you have.
Mr. Harrison, could you stand behind Cockfield, or Cockfield move over so you can On camera?
I understand why you're.
Okay. If you could stand back a little bit so we can get you on camera.
Yeah, possibly.
Now we see.
Good afternoon. As Mr. O'Mays has indicated, we came to a lot of almost finalized discussion at the last board and grounds meeting on May 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I think that we finalized the height, we finalized the location of the sign. It was agreed upon that we would move a little bit forward, closer to the curb cut area, right next to the sidewalk. We finalized all dimensions as option number 2. And where we left everything off at was the color. And what I passed around to the board, as we discussed at the meeting, was for our color swatches. What we are proposing to have the cabinet painted. This color, in correlation with Ms. Flood and Mr. Cooper, when we walked outside and we were looking at a lot of the accent features of the building itself, and we kind of matched up this particular color. So,
On the front page, or are you inside?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mays?
You're speaking in reference to the colors that you have listed here on this brochure that you have.
He gave you a swatch.
The color swatch, sir.
Right here.
Oh. Yeah, I couldn't read that little.
Right, as you enter the, I want to say vestibule of the library, you have trim features or trim color features that we kind of chose to kind of look at. And we chose this color, a lighter color, because of the complexities of the sign, if you will.
Well, could you just hold your point there? Let me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pose the board. Are you, the board satisfied with the color in which has been chosen here? I would appreciate you seeing.
My feedback, as I was looking at it, I just shared with Mr. Latimer, is if we did this, we would have to, in my opinion, I'd like to match the colors of the window frames to the top of this. Or either have the window frames repainted to match this, one or two. But I'd like to get feedback from everybody, because maybe the contrast, because currently, does this color reflect the sign that's currently out on outside?
No, sir. It completely reflects the accent colors as you enter the vestibule of the library.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think I would kind of like this color, because when you look at the logo, it kind of, it won't overshadow the logo.
Okay.
In terms of how that's coming out. So I think it's complementary to the logo, and the logo will still stand out.
Okay.
Dr. Harris?
It's okay.
Shahid?
That's okay.
So this color is the top part where it says ECPL.
The overall frame, everything that encompasses the electronic med center will be painted in that color. Now, to piggyback off of the meeting that we had on May 6th, we wanted a lighter color because of the top cabinet. The top cabinet, the lettering, ECPL, and the tagline, East Cleveland Public Library, in the daytime will be black. Okay, so we wanted a very stern contrast. That's why we chose a lighter color. Now, the window frames, and I really have to look at it, I would assume, and I reiterate, I'll assume that it's probably a brushed aluminum.
But looking at the windows now, the frames, they look like they kind of match with whatever the color, the little cards that you gave us. They seem to match with that. Anyway, moving right along, go ahead.
Well, just, that was our thought process. We wanted to incorporate the colors of the building, more specifically the accent colors. And we walked outside, we looked at it, we matched it up. And per the meeting, we wanted to provide color swatches of the color that we had chosen and give it to the board to decide.
Okay. Well, it seems to be a consensus that we agree with. Anything else you wish to share with us before we move on?
We are very happy to be moving forward. I think that we are in a good place. I've spoken to Mr. Latimer, Mr. Cockfield in relation to the bid specs. I think that we are going to get something coming back to us as far as vendors that want to perform the work. And that's going to be very accurate. They're going to be able to make a very informed decision as to their capabilities and as to what is good for the East Cleveland Public Library.
One thing I like, you have a brick base, and it coincides with, walk brick, so similar to that.
Actually, it's going to match as close as possible to the building brick. Okay, we're going to do the best that we can to match that. Obviously, when brick has been in the field for X amount of time, it's going to be kind of difficult to match, but our vision is to match the brick of the building.
Okay, any further questions to Mr. Harrison? Mr. Harrison, I just need to have any further comments.
I just wanted to add a comment. Yeah, my thoughts, I just wanted to share with the board members is that the whole bid process has been ran by the prosecutor, who is our board attorney. So we can rest assured that we have followed the proper legal protocols to ensure that the whole process is done fairly and legally and appropriately. That was the only input that I had regarding that.
Mr. Harrison, if you have no further comments or information you wish to share with us, the board at this time, we appreciate you coming in and sharing that information with us.
Thank you, Mr. O'Mays, and I'll hang back if you guys have any further questions or concerns.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Work update. I don't know who you share, but it's my understanding that the roof has been completed, and the system in which they removed has, I guess, been reinstalled, and I guess everything is operating well at this point.
That is correct, Mr. Myers.
Carpet update. It is my understanding that it has been chosen, and I don't know whether it has been purchased as of yet, or I didn't see any on the floor when I came in.
No, the order's been placed. He said that the order had been placed.
So I guess it has not arrived. So I was moving. Sometimes you soon. Payment update. Mr. Vladimir, I'm going to yield to you because of the fact, I understand that it has started, and I don't know where they are in the process. So I will yield to Mr. Vladimir, if you wish to tell us about it.
Actually, the painting project is in play right now. They come in after hours to do all the prep work to the walls, and I believe they are on schedule to start the actual painting this week.
And I was supposed to get an email in reference to see that, but I guess that email got lost somewhere in the mix of, right, so I'll leave that.
You can actually take a walk through the building before you leave and take a look, because I went this afternoon and took a look at some of the prep work being done. And they're getting, in fact, it looked, from what I could see, we're getting close to actually doing the painting now.
But you missed my point, so some people picked up on it, so they know what I'm speaking of in reference to the email that I was supposed to get.
Oh,
I believe so Mayor, we're gonna, for the June meeting, we're gonna do a mid-year update to the board, which will include where we are with all the projects and a lot of before and after photos. So we will share that out at the June meeting.
Are there any questions so far from anyone else? Conference center update, and I understand it's gonna cost us so much, in the neighborhood of $37,000 or something like that.
I don't have those numbers in front of you, Mr. Cockfield.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
It was in reference to the conference center update, and I think the cost factor is somewhere in the neighborhood of $37,000.
no, I think what he's referring to is the lease payments on the equipment, which was $3,700.
Yes, I mean, we were anticipating 6 months worth of lease costs for the conference center. It doesn't look like it's going to be that high. We probably won't begin operation with the conference center until, I would say, maybe September, October. Given where we are with the renovation and the painting and the carpet. So those lease costs are going to be less than what was actually budgeted or anticipated.
That's what I recall from our meeting as well.
I know there's a $37,000. Property update, I think, Mr. Rashid has articulated there, and so I'm not going to beat that dead horse.
But I would like to get feedback from the rest of the rest of the board as to how you feel, and Mr. Severi in particular, because at this point, you and Ms. McDonald are actually actively working on this. And I'm just thinking that based on the response that we've gotten thus far, not to really waste any more time going that route, and that we should just start a brand new application process going through whomever it is. Now,
Well, I just
I'm
went
thinking,
online and looked, the property is still held by East Cleveland Land Reutilization Program.
okay,
The application, the establishing a new application will be done through the city of Cleveland.
okay,
We can CC the county just to make them aware of it, but they're not, based on the ownership of the land, that's still the city of East Cleveland situation, in terms of maybe communication, applications made, and also CC city council, make them aware that we're collaborating in that direction.
would you engage our library attorney in this process and have him lead the way for us?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Moving right along, before I know there's a resolution, but before I read the resolution or put it before, I would like to hear from Mr. Cockfield in reference to the procurement document. Can you articulate for us, for the board, edification in reference to this procurement document?
Well, yes, Mr. Mays, I had emailed the documents to all the board members for your review. This is a final draft of the document. As I indicated in my report, my fiscal officer report, I had submitted it to the prosecutor for his review. He made a comment basically having to do with the a big guarantee, and suggested that I remove that section of the document only because it would drive the cost of the bids up. And he didn't feel that it was necessary given the cost of the anticipated cost of the marquee. So I removed that section of the document. I also had the document reviewed by Mr. Harrison. He made some corrections as well. So the document that has been submitted to the board is a final draft. The only parts that need to be added are the respective dates that need to be dropped in once the resolution that is before you is passed. Excuse me, is passed. So that's really, that's really all I have to say about it. It's complete. It's complete in form, in terms of form and content. So it's ready to go.
I had one question. The general guarantee under section 13A, the 5-year, guarantee period, 5 years for them, substantial completion of work. Is that an industry standard, or do we add, or we just,
No, I included that. There didn't seem to be any challenge by Mr. Harrison or the prosecutor. So 5-year guarantee is reasonable.
Well, and, no, Ms. Carpenter just there. With the unit itself, okay, you're looking at a shelf life
You
or.
can't see nothing but your line.
We can hear
My
you.
apologies.
What you gotta say is more important than saying.
We can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can always, or the library can always extend the warranty to a 7 or 10-year period. You deal directly with the manufacturing company of that unit itself, not with the vendor or anything of that nature. So you have that option. You will have a 5-year warranty with the unit itself as it comes in, but you can always look for things or extend the warranty a little bit further.
Now, we're talking about different parts of this marquee, because one is the actual case that itself. The electronics, the warranty that he's talking about, I think, what I'm asking myself is about the electronics.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so that's what we're talking about, the
Yes, sir.
5 years currently on is on the electronic portion.
That's correct.
And does it include training as well as getting the initial
Oh,
setup?
yes.
All that's in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any further questions? Mr. Carpenter or Mr. Harris? Hearing none, Mr. Cutfield, you complete,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Chairman, I will, there's a resolution in the grounds, I will read it at this time. A resolution to approve opening of electronic display marquee bid. Sponsored by Waze, co-sponsored by Zia Rashid. Members of the East Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees have met, discussed, and reviewed the following items on May 15, 2021. Resolution number 05-02, 2021, resolution to establish date, time, and place of reading of bids for electronic display marquee. Whereas the East Cleveland Public Library is elected to improve its facilities, and whereas the board has sought sealed bids for the removal, placement, and install of an electronic display marquee. Now therefore, be it resolved, the East Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees approve that this officer publicly open, read, and tabulate the bids immediately after the time for their filing has expired also. Be it resolved that the bids opening will take place in the lower auditorium of the East Cleveland Public Library, and that the tabulation bids and a report of the tabulation be presented to the board at its next meeting following the bid opening. Mr. Chairman, I will move for the adoption of this resolution.
So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? Mr. Turner, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Dr. Harris.
Yes,
I have 5 yeses.
And 5 yeses, resolution passes. That's on my mind, you better work. All right. So does that conclude the Building and Grounds Committee's update for today?
Chairman, the proposed resolution.
Have we concluded Buildings and Grounds? The next item on our agenda is the Library Services Committee update.
thank you, Mr. President. The Library Services Committee, basically, we already talked about the, Founder's Day event, May 29th, and the Summer Reading Club. So we support those ideas and we're all ready to work and go. Thank you very much.
All right, does that conclude your report?
Thank you for the report.
Thank you very much, certainly appreciate it. Next item on our agenda is the Ad hoc Committee update. Mr. Severa, I think you're the chairman.
Yes, sir. We have not formally met, but, given the update, we received that, have not received any communication. I think at one point, Ms. McDowell had offered a recommendation in terms of how we, approach the city, not just a letter, but also a public records request, which would put state or how legal application behind the request. At this point, it would probably be a good idea just to go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
We will be in contact with the library legal counsel and kind of bring him up to speed and how we should approach. We still have the property appraisal that still should be valid. But I will discuss that with them and see if, because of the timeline, we need to use that at all.
That was the next question that I had for you, sir. Just that, can you give us maybe, based on your time, a timeline as to when we want to at least have the first meeting between you and our attorney completed so that maybe,
In the next couple of weeks,
okay,
so I'll reach out Monday, call Mr. Lamb and get the communication information, and I'll reach out to him on Monday.
great.
And we can schedule our call.
Okay. Thank you very much. We look forward to being updated on this process.
Mr. Chairman, I had the only objection, not an objection, but my recommendation that the lawyer in reference to our law director will have, they should meet with the full board. Discuss those matters. In reference to that project.
Is there anyone else? Because I don't want to encumber the process. Is there anyone else who would like to be in on those meetings?
No, I think we want to go.
I'm about to say, it's Dr. Harris. So what I'm thinking is that, would you like to be a part of that committee? And because I don't want to encumber Mr. Severa with the process of having to go through the entire board, because we all have a consensus as to what we want to achieve. And so the process to get there is now in the hands of Mr. Severa.
Before we submit everything, it's going to come back for a vote.
Yes.
For a vote anyway.
So if you want to participate in the process, I suggest that you and Mr. Severa.
It isn't a matter that we should participate in the process. It is a project that does merit this board and coming up on this board to be cognizant as to what we are entering into and what the process is, and hear it coming from the attorney That's why we have an attorney. He's supposed to be here at the meetings anyway. So,
Well, once Mr. Severa reaches out to him, I'm sure that he would not have a problem if Mr. Severa requests that he, but I think we're saying the same thing, because the process that he's going to go through, he will have to take us all through, because ultimately we're going to have to sign off on these documents that have to be filed. But if you want to be a part of the individual meetings to get him here before he comes here, it's just a matter of just staying in touch with Mr. Severa, because yes, I think that he's going to present to us, or we can request that he presents to us at our next board meeting, just to give us, in fact, we probably should schedule him so that we can get any questions that may be in other board members' minds about this process and what we can expect. And that way we don't have equal expectations as to how long this process is going to take and how we actually go through it. So maybe that's something that we should do. In fact,
We can, what we said would be to have a formal document to vote on at the next board meeting.
okay,
Work through the process over the next couple of weeks.
so maybe that should be set as our goal. Okay, that's fine with me, because you know that in July, we don't meet in July. So we would like to have that meeting with him, if at all possible, at our June meeting. That way we'll know that through July, even though we're not going to meet in July, we'll know that the activity is taking place to move us in the direction we'd like to go. Okay, any further questions, Mr. Mays?
no, it was no reflection on.
No, I don't think that.
Just that I felt the board should be cognizant.
Oh, we're going to be. Yes, sir. I agree with you. Yes, sir, I agree with you. Wholeheartedly. Mhm.
All right, no.
Okay, is there anything else, Mr. Severa?
No, that's it.
So that concludes your report. Next item on our agenda is new business.
I had some revisit this, that involved with that. Well, I think that the administration, I'll just put it that way. Thank you for the bringing the resolution of things into. And secondly, there was something else in reference.
Governor's orders, June 2nd. I think you mentioned the state opening all the way back up on June 2nd.
Yes.
Where we're gonna require masks. We're gonna still follow the guidelines that we still have.
What's this about June 3rd? Someone was telling me yesterday that the governor relaxed wearing masks as of June 3rd, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what he's doing. June
June 2nd or June 3rd, you may be correct on that date. We're waiting to see what the formal orders will be and how it will impact public libraries, or how Library Council is scheduling a forum for us to ask questions. And I believe Ms. Flood and I will be participating in that to see how we're going to move forward with our policies and procedures, what we are mandated to do and what the board gives us the autonomy to do as well, because I think we can make our own policies and rules within the library itself. So we have a Zoom meeting next week in regards to what those June 3rd orders will look like.
I don't. Before I forget it again, thank you for you. Where are we in reference to, anybody going to Oklahoma to, I know that.
You had at the last meeting, they're not doing it, it's virtual.
That's virtual.
I was so disappointed to hear that, but they did notify all the people who have pre-registered that it's not going to be in person this year, it's going to be virtual.
Well, are we going to do it virtual? I want to see, they said, I've seen it on TV, all that stuff.
I share your sentiments because I was really disappointed to find out that they were not going to do it in person this year. And I think at this point, it's probably too late for them to even change their minds, even though conditions have now changed in the country since they made the announcement. So perhaps if there is a change, I don't even know if I'll just stay closely listening to what, what they're doing, because I do attend some of the virtual events that they hold. But, so far it's just gonna be
It's
virtual.
hard to change like accommodation for hotels.
Exactly. Unless they move the whole meeting back later in the year.
Right.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. I would really like to go. Yeah, me too. I really would. I would really love to go to Tulsa.
Yeah. Okay, that was nice, business.
Are we having any problems with patrons in terms of wearing masks? Is it all, they have adjusted to that as well?
Thus far, our security monitors have done a good job asking patrons to come in to put on masks, give them masks if they don't have it. We're still doing temperature checks. That's something we don't know if we're going to continue to do after June 3rd. We'll just look at what the orders look like. But we haven't had any resistance from any of our patrons that are coming in.
One other thing, I brought it to the attention and I was corrected. We did not give any raises last year because we could not afford it, and we did give a cost of living raises, I guess you want to say. So I just want to throw that on, put that out there for everyone. There was some discussion about that. So that solved that problem. When I found out that we did not have the resources to give raises to the board, we did give them cost of living increase.
That's a great point, Mr. Mays. There is something the personnel committee will have to look at going into the fall before we prepare the budget for next year. There's a labor shortage right now. So the industry right now are increasing wages. There's discussion around the minimum wage being $15. So those things could impact the public sector. So we have to have a discussion on what is that going to look like for our budget in East Cleveland Public Library.
That's going to have a great impact.
Our salaries are a lot more higher than an unemployment check, I tell you that.
Let me ask you a question. Is that the present people already on board, or is that a new hire?
Well, we're gonna have to look at, there are staff members that make above the current minimum wage by far. However, $15 is pretty significant. So that will be an increase for a percentage of our staff members, but staff members that were already at that, those are things we will look at and see what we can do, what we can't do.
Thank you. I know it's something we need to look at if they pass that.
That's gonna be an interesting conversation, because I'll just wait till the cost information will get there.
Sometimes we have to prepare for that bridge before we can cross it.
That's true. That's true. Does that conclude new business? And if any further input for new business?
What's wrong with that? Yeah.
Next item on our agenda is old business. Is there anything outstanding that we need to discuss in old business? Hearing none, the next item on our agenda is the audience participation.
Mr. President, we do have audience participation. This is from Mary Rice, and I quote, "I was elated to hear during the president's report that this board will begin to obtain that land behind the library. I have a lot of documentation on previous activities with the land."
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Rice. We certainly appreciate it. We'll be in contact with you.
Yeah, I've shared most of that information with, as far as after that, then we'll make the get everybody from that.
Okay. And that, that's why I keep coming back to this and wanting to move forward with a brand new application. So anything that happened in the past, at least we know and can prepare ourselves if those objections re-arise in this process. But right now, I just want to know the legal, to make sure that we start off on the right foot, to have our attorneys approach the city or whoever, whatever entity we're supposed to approach, and we take it step by step by step until we end up accomplishing our goal, because we want to expand the library. We have several different possible uses for that land, but until we know exactly how much land we're going to have and, the timing of that land, we can't even begin to prepare a document, because we had it mentioned by someone to us that we had to present them with what we were going to do with the land. And I say to them, how can we present anything to you? We don't know how much land we're going to have to use and when we're going to have access to it, because that's a long drawn out process to actually create the documents that are going to be necessary to show, because we have several ideas already as to what we would like to do with the land. But then you have to get architectural studies in and, just go through the process. But the key thing right now, and especially when you're looking, people are starting to actually dump on the land. My God, and we've been taking care of this land for 8 years. And it doesn't make any sense at all that we cannot get some feedback. So that's why I said, instead of going that route, we'll just start a brand new application. Thank you, Dr. Rice. We will be reaching out to you. Thank you so much.
I have a comment on that land.
Yes, Dr. Harris.
Procedure. Is there a way that it can be enclosed, fence or something around it until it's decided what is going to happen?
I wish, but we can't do anything because we don't have any ownership of it. That's exactly our point. Once we get the ownership of it, then we can, like this dumping wouldn't be taking place if in fact although we're maintaining that land right now, we look up, if people start dumping on it or anything else, we have no legal position to stop them. And if the person that's involved in the dumping, I don't want to go there, because the bottom line is that we just want to gain control of the land because we want to expand the library.
But what we can do is you catch someone dumping, and you catch them, you can call the police and they can be arrested and they can pick up the stuff they're dumping. So that you can do whether you own it or not.
If you can get the complaint to be enforced.
I think there's two other points that Mr. Diaz has made about public involvement. I think once we put a new application in, then we can reach out to our supporters, your friends, and so we have this.
Great idea.
And in effort to make sure that we get as much total support behind that to be a part of it.
That's a great idea, Mr. Severa. Because I think the library is worthy of the support of the community. We're trying to make a positive impact on the city of East Cleveland. We care about the community. We're an institution in this community. And if there's a better use for that land, somebody's going to have to show it to us.
Hopefully in the future, we can partnership with another group to stop dumping in East Cleveland, period.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you see vacant home people.
That's right, under bridges.
All kind of stuff,
Mhm.
all other areas, they come and dump their stuff in East Cleveland.
Right.
So maybe in the future, we can partnership with a group that might be interested in actually cleaning up East Cleveland.
Well, hopefully.
But we're just one part of the city, it's a larger city.
I
It's
agree.
not a department to deal with.
I agree. Any other audience participation?
The only thing the city seems to be in is raising buildings and not rehabbing our buildings. And turn it into a dump. That's the kind of leadership that we have.
Well,
I put that on record and I stand by that statement.
I didn't hear you, Mr. Banks.
and there's an election coming soon, so people have the opportunity to make a choice. Is there any other audience participation?
That's it.
Next item on the agenda is the adjournment of the meeting. Do I
Mary
hear a
Ann
motion?
has moved once.
It's been moved in second. Mr. Turner, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Nay.
Ms. Shahid,
Getting good at this.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
we have 5 yes.
5 yeses. Meeting of the East Cleveland Board of Trustees,
That's up to the
Saturday, May
people.
15th, 2021, at approximately, what is it? 3:30? Meeting adjourned.